might say, Gordon Brown warming to some of the Blairite ideas which he resisted a bit.
Catch you again in a second, Adam. Just want to go to Chiswick and the Fuller's Brewery down there. You can see Mr. Cameron.
We'll say there is something they couldn't organise in a brewery, but luckily it's a bit early for that, so we don't have to worry about that. I just wanted to say a word or two about what I think the biggest issue in this election is, which is the state of our economy, before trying to answer your questions. Because the most important thing we've got to do in this country is get our economy moving again, get jobs going again, get living standards rising again. And I think we've got two huge challenges. The first is this big deficit, this big debt that is hanging over the whole country. But secondly is how do we actually get business moving? Because I think the government so often gets it wrong. They think that the economy is all about the government. But actually the economy is all about businesses like these and how can we help them? So first of all, what are we going to do about this deficit? What are we going to do about this debt? Why does it matter? Well, I think we all know in our own lives that if you've got big debts, if you're running up big debts, the longer you leave it, the worse it gets. If you just put it off and put it off, the interest rates go up, the mortgage rates go up, and we won't get a recovery. So we say you've got to get on and start to tackle that deficit and remove that big black cloud from the economy. But that won't be enough to get business investing again, to get business growing again. And that's why we think you need an emergency budget to actually say, let's make it easier for new businesses to start up. Let's cut the rate of corporation tax that small and large companies pay. Let's say to a new company, the first 10 workers you take on, you don't have to pay any national insurance. And there's a big argument going on about this issue of national insurance. And I just want to say why I think it's so important. The government is saying that we shouldn't do anything about wasteful spending this year, 2010. We should just go on with it, and they're going to put up national insurance next year. They're going to put up national insurance on everyone earning over £20,000, and they're going to put extra national insurance paid by the employers on every job over £5,700. And I just want to say why I think that is so wrong. If you think about it, people earning £20,000, that is not rich. They are not the ones who should be making the biggest contribution to dealing with our deficit. That's the first point. But the second point, I think it's crazy when you're coming out of recession, when you're trying to get the economy moving, to put an extra tax on jobs. It's the worst time to put a tax on jobs. I think it would be a jobs killer, it would be a recovery killer, it would be an economy killer. But there's one last point I want to make, which I think is almost more important than those two, and it's about the values that lie behind this thinking. The government seem to be saying, let's go on wasting money this year, and then let's put up your taxes next year. Well, people are saying to me, why should my taxes go up to pay for government waste? Why not cut that waste now? Because the government themselves have said there's £11 billion of waste out there in government spending, and we all know examples of crazy things the government spends money on, but they're not going to do anything about it for a year. Well, we say that's wrong. Cut the waste now and stop the tax rise on national insurance next year. We can't stop every tax rise. It is a difficult situation our economy is in, but we should try and stop the one tax rise that will really hit people in work and that will hit every company that wants to grow and expand and employ people. Because I think getting the economy going is the most important thing of this election. So thank you for letting me come here today and share this with you. They gave me a pint of London Pride. I only had about that much because I thought any more, and the rest of the day might be a bit of a wipeout. But thank you for coming. Very happy to take any questions. Who wants to go first? Sir.
David, we're quite rightly under a lot of pressure as an industry to control our sale of alcohol and be responsible. If you get in, what will you do to control the ridiculous pricing of the supermarkets?
Right, that's a very good point about the pricing of supermarkets. Everybody knows we do have problems on Friday nights and Saturday nights in our town and city centres. And frankly, the problems have got really bad. The level of antisocial behaviour, violence fuelled by alcohol. But when I go around the country, the police officers are telling me it doesn't tend to be the pubs that are causing the problem, and actually it doesn't tend to be the nightclubs that are causing the problem. It's what we call preloading. People going to the supermarket, buying very, very cheap alcohol, loading up with it, and then going out. And I think that supermarkets selling alcohol below cost should be banned. I think we need to take the powers to say, look, of course, we want people to be able to buy a bottle of wine, some beer from the supermarket, go home and drink it. But this really deep discounting is actually encouraging irresponsible behaviour, and we need to stop it. And I think if we do that, it will be easier to make sure we've got a good and thriving pub trade. I've got a constituency with rural Oxfordshire, 400 square miles, over 100 villages, hundreds of pubs, and they're having a very tough time. And I think we want to help the pubs, help people to drink socially, rather than have so much cheap alcohol coming out of supermarkets and also the convenience stores, which is actually the heart of the problem. One other thing as well, I do think we need to make it easier for the police and the local authorities, when there's a shop that is selling alcohol to people underage, to take their licence away. I don't think we should tolerate that, and I think that would actually help responsible drinking in responsible pubs, which is what companies like Fuller's are all about. So,
do you drink ale or lager?
Do I drink? I haven't yet found a drink I don't like. That's a worrying admission to make. But I tend to drink bitter rather than lager. Quite like London Pride, very good. But I've got in my constituency, I've got the Witchwood Brewery, and I've also got Hook Norton right outside. So I'm afraid I do drink some of the competition. But I think London Pride is an excellent pint. And I also think the cans with the widgets are quite good too. So sometimes a cold Guinness can be nice as well. I'm sounding a bit like an alcoholic. I think I'll stop there. Sir.
Hi, what are your plans for alcohol duty? Every time we put our prices up in our pubs, we will lose a very small fraction of customers, but it grows each time, and I wonder what your plans are, and cider duty as well, for that matter.
Well, we did win a bit of a battle, which is the government had this mad plan to put an extra 10% duty on cider, and they weren't targeting the problem drinks, it was going to go on all ciders. And it struck me what a bad idea this was when I was in a service station on the M5 on my way down to the West Country, and I was actually, I hope this isn't live on television, I was actually in the men's room, and someone came up to me and accosted me and said, "Mr. Cameron, you've got to stop this cider duty, it's madness." So anyway, we did. We had a victory in the House of Commons. We told the government their budget couldn't go through unless they scrapped the extra cider duty. So we won that. But let me tell you what I do think we need to do. We do need to tax some of the problem drinks. And I would say, if you look at some of the really high-strength, super-strength ciders and lagers, things like White Lightning, which you can buy, 3 litres for sort of $3.99. I'm sounding a bit expert on this in a worrying way, but that stuff has never been anywhere near an apple. It's not cider, it's just something that people use to get off their heads. And I think we should tax that more aggressively. So super-strength ciders, super-strength lagers, and the Alco-Pops, we would put more tax on. But I don't want us to see us endlessly taxing the typical pint that people have after a hard day's work down at the pub, or a bottle of beer they want to take home. But the problem drinks, yes, we do need to put more tax on. Madam.
Thank you. We've heard a lot from you and your team about reform of public sector pensions, but I think people here would be quite interested to know whether the Tories are going to be friends or foes of private sector pensions.
I think we should be. I mean, we used to have, 13 years ago, we had one of the strongest pension systems in the world. We had a very good private sector pension system. And over the last 13 years, so much tax money has been taken out of the pension funds that has contributed to the fact that so many pension funds have closed. So yes, we should be good friends to private pensions and to company pensions, and we want to see them spread more widely. We also want to do something else, which is to make sure that the basic state pension is rated each year in line with earnings. Now that does cost money, going up with earnings rather than prices, but we've said how we're going to pay for that. And I'm afraid anyone in their mid-50s might find this bad news, but I do think we should ask people to retire 1 year later from 2016, earlier than what the government said. Because every year life expectancy is improving, every year we're living longer, and I think it makes sense to move from 65 for men to 66 to men in 2016. That would save a huge amount of money, and it would enable us to have a strong basic state pension, which I think we need to give people dignity and security in old age.